All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to session two of Product University. I apologize for the lack of music. I wanted to let everyone in a few minutes early, but I am missing my guy Chris that would play music for us. So I do apologize. You were not missing anything. I had not started yet, but we are starting now. We have a fantastic lesson in store today. And last week, when we started our first session, we were in the chaos of transitioning from the monthly rundown to this call. So I forgot to even say what my background was. So for those that do not know me, of course, my name is Angie, but my background is actually in biochemistry. That's what I got my degree in. And after graduating, I joined the cosmetic chemistry side of this industry. So I was a cosmetic chemist at a raw material supplier. I was working with brands like Aveda, Mary Kay, IS Clinical, Color Science, finding out ways to maximize their formulations and ensure that no ingredient was redundant or unnecessary. And I really bring that understanding to Riman, understanding the ingredients we're selecting because there are so many opportunities for ingredients. There are thousands and thousands to choose from, even more if you consider the differences between suppliers. So we need to have a strict quality and safety assurance that allows us to determine what exact ingredients are going into our products. And that's the perfect topic for today. We are talking about some key ingredients in Riman products. But also, just personally, a little bit about me is that I love the gym. I paint, I use both oil and acrylics. I love makeup, I love skincare and hair care, and I love reading. But without further ado, let's get started. Let's get into our session. All right, so yes, as I had mentioned, we're talking about ingredients today, and those ingredients are specific to the Riemann story. That's going to be our giant byung pool and our use of the Jeju lava energy water, key to the Riemann story, directly uniting us to Jeju Island, but also crucial for the performance of your products. Now, with the inclusion of these two ingredients, we first have to look at where they're sourced, which of course is Jeju Island. Now, on Jeju Island, we have an entire campus. This allows us that direct control of the sourcing of these raw materials, but it also allows us to harness science as a major focus of Riemann's production, innovation at every cornerstone and at every mile of product development, and so much more in between. So when we look more in depth at Riemann campus, there are a couple key points that I want to, or spots rather, that I want to point out. So notably, we have our Byungpool lab. This is Ask Labs. That's where we're beginning our preliminary research of the giant Byungpool leaves, their novel derivatives, how we can incorporate it into formulation. But we also have it directly next to the Jeju Lava Water Center. This is that specific government agency on Jeju Island that allows us the preliminary access to our Jeju Lava energy water. They, of course, also allowed us to establish our smart farm on their campus, but this greatly ensures that it's intimately tied, the Jeju Lava energy water and the growth of our giant Byung pool together. Now we have Ask Base over here. This is where we are processing and manufacturing various raw materials, be it the giant Byung pool and the lava Byung pool water, or the camellia seed, the nettle extract, the soapberry, and mugwort. We also have here that Riman farm, that smart farm. So this is where all the magic is happening in terms of the growth of our heritage strain, that giant Byung pool. To power the growth of this and to power a lot of our day-to-day activities, we have both wind power stations and a solar power station. So that really ties to our commitment to that sustainable innovation, really ensuring we are not depleting Earth's natural resources as we uphold nature's beauty in our formulas. All right, so let's get into first that giant byung pool, that key ingredient to Riman. It has a robust and powerful history, and we lean into this because it gives such a romantic taste of otherwise a very scientific and pertinent ingredient within our products. We have that perfect marriage of the tradition and the innovation in this singular ingredient. Now, giant byungpool, or rather byungpool, that standard form is native to Asia, and it's also found in Madagascar. It's even found in some parts of, South Africa, Southeast Asia, and India as well. It appears in historical texts as a regenerating herb. Tigers were known to instinctively roll in these leaves after battle. It was actually found that in understanding wildlife. And when scientists were essentially watching wildlife in its native habitats, they found that these wild tigers would battle and they would instinctively roll in these leaves after that battle to heal their wounds. And that began to illuminate the potency of these leaves. It's associated with longevity in Sri Lanka, while Ayurvedic texts have revered Byangpul as a mind clearing and wound healing herb. It's known as many different names associated with each of these histories. So we have Asiatic pennywort, tiger grass, as per that story, gotu kola, and it's most commonly known by its scientific name, Centella asiatica. Now, Byungpul is the Korean spoken name for Centella asiatica, and it really had yet to be written down until Riman. When we officially opened in the US about 3 years ago, we were able to play around with how it was spelled, how it was perceived, and that's how we came to this specific spelling. That when you utilize this herb, you become part of a youthful group of people, the Be Young Pool. Now, of course, all of the growth of the giant Byung pool as at our Ask Base Smart Farm. With the establishment of our smart farm, Riman is actually the first company globally that is vertically integrated in the controlled growth of Centella asiatica, which is so powerful in not only the quality assurance and the consistency in the batching of these products, but also in the story we're telling. There are so many different brands out there, so many different products that have Centella, but you cannot compete with the individual and direct sourcing of a plant by the company that is then using that plant. So at this smart farm, it's over 150,000 square feet. There's 62 individual plant beds that are growing the giant Byung pool. We essentially monitor everything. And part of the ICD book and part of the Manhattan Project, which is the book that Chairman On wrote about the development and scientific discoveries of giant Byung pool, we illuminated all the different considerations that were put into place to even build the smart farm. What materials we should use, what sealing we should use to allow for the accurate light penetration without damaging the leaves. And so everything was carefully looked at before even building the smart farm. Once it was completed, we then began to monitor the temperature of the room, the humidity, the soil and its salinity, the growth period, how long it took to get the most phytonutrients in the leaves, and the exact moment at which we should pick them, essentially. So as we monitor all this, as we set all these conditions, we otherwise leave the leaves to grow self-sustainably on their own. Essentially, they grow via osmosis. All these leaves you see here are planted in individual soil beds, and rather that soil is sand. They grow via osmosis. Essentially, they pull Jeju lava energy water from the bottom of their beds when they need that water source, and that's how they ultimately grow self-sustainably. Now, this individual in the corner here is Dr. Saw. He is the head of the Byungpo Research Institute, and I have had the pleasure of interviewing him multiple times. On my first visit to Korea about 2 years ago, he actually took me through the smart farm and pointed out these different characteristics about how we're growing the giant Byungpul. Now the entire smart farm is closed off, so you cannot enter and walk through these beds, but it is still a sight to behold just simply through the viewing windows. It was definitely unique that I was able to actually go in and even touch some of the leaves. Now, in our growth of that giant Byung pool, of course, many of you might know by now that we are doing it in a protected status because we have a plant patent. So once we discovered that there was a unique synergy between the growth of standard Centella asiatica with Jeju lava energy water, we realized that we had found something different. These leaves were significantly larger than standard Centella, which is what we were going to settle with for our ICD skincare. And because we noted they were significantly larger, we wanted to see what we had discovered. So we submitted seedlings to a various amount of third parties, of accreditation agencies who studied those leaves for 3 years, and they made sure that they were consistently growing larger. Once this was confirmed, we received a plant patent from the Korea Forest Service, as you see on the left here. And you can see the title holder is Ask Company. We talked about that last week. That is Chairman On's company. It is Riman. It's overseeing all that is Riman. This protects us in our growth, marketing, and utilization of the giant Byungpul for 20 years, and we received it in 2022. Now, more recently, we also just received USDA PVP recognition, which is equally important, if not more so. The USDA Plant Variety Protection Office offers similar recognition in the unique discovery of plant varietals, really essentially protecting you in your exclusive use and exclusive marketing of it. What's crucial about this establishment is that holding a USDA PVP certification makes it easier to establish unique varietals in other countries. And of course, Riman is going global, so this allows us to recognize giant byungpool worldwide. As you can see here, you can find the specific USDA plant variety protection under the certificate name or the pennywort variety, which is known as BT Care. I know last time I checked, which was a few months ago, it was not yet populating. That was due to the government shutdown. So it might be there now, but it is so easy to view the importance of these plants, the discovery that Riemann has made, both in the tangible evidence of the patents, in the evidence of the smart farm and the growth of them, but of course in the science as well, in the performance studies of giant byungpool. Now, why do we even want to include the centella in our formulations? Why was it so important to us? Centella has a robust backing of benefits. It's really known for its applicability to sensitive skin types and beyond, and it offers benefits like soothing and calming the skin, providing hydration, and even reinforcing the skin barrier. But that is true of any centella species. So we've been above and beyond by establishing a leaf that is larger and thusly more potent in its phytonutrient content. What's crucial about all of this, all these details, is the fact that we are able to use the fresh form of our Centella asiatica. Many companies will dry the standard byungpool to lower the cost of shipping of this raw material, but in doing so, you remove vital components that are water soluble, such as water soluble vitamins. We get to keep everything intact and take those leaves directly to our extraction process. So you can see here the different sources that we can get from Madagascar and Indonesia, and that fresh giant byungpool, those green leaves, just hit a bit different visually and in formulation as well. Now, because of the greater area of leaf size, which is roughly 3 to 4, even 5 to 6 times larger than that standard byungpool, as you can see here, there's a higher polyphenol content. This directly correlates to greater antioxidant activity. But we have also found that giant byungpool has robust efficacies in reducing the appearance of hyperpigmentation and reducing the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles. And because we have that Giant Byungpool Research Institute, this is just the beginning of our understanding of what Giant Byungpool can do for us. There is so many more things in store in terms of the application of this Byungpool, be it in new formats, in new products, or with those novel derivatives, new key ingredients from the Giant Byungpool that are performing for the human body. Now, when we took a closer and more scientific look into the giant byungpool, we can see and identify specific molecules that are really influencing the performance of this plant. Now, you might find on the market that there are specific serums or sprays that focus on one of the many triterpenes or polyphenols in the plant, such as they might have an asiaticoside serum or a madecassoside spray, but it's crucial that these all exist together in one extract because they are very synergistic. So what you see identified here are the triterpenes and their glycosides. The triterpenes are going to be essentially the madecassic acid and the asiatic acid, and their glycosides or osides are going to be asiaticoside and madecassoside. Now, all of them have fantastic benefits on their own, as you can see listed here. Many of them have antioxidant properties, some strengthen the skin, speed wound healing. They have anti-inflammatory benefit, hydration benefit. But there has also been studies that found when they work together in one extract, you have an exponential benefit in terms of all of these activities. Now, asiatic acid, for example, can actually stimulate the fibroblast cells, which are the cell types that create collagen and elastin, and they can help improve collagen synthesis. Madecassic acid is really known to be soothing, while asiaticoside is known for its antioxidant properties and the strengthening of skin. But when used in a mix with asiaticoside, asiatic acid, and madecassoside, madecassic acid has been found to prompt the production of natural moisturizing factors in the skin. This is crucial because many times you can naturally moisturize your skin with topicals, with you know, glycerins and glycols and natural plant oils, all these things are going to hydrate and moisturize. But the specific activity of encouraging the production of NMFs or natural moisturizing factors increases your skin's ability to produce its own hydration, its innate hydration. And this is really what is structurally important for your skin health. Now, outside of the triterpenes and their glycosides, we of course have those polyphenols I mentioned, but there's also vitamin C and vitamin B and many other minerals that are directly pulled from the soil they are grown in and the Jeju lava energy water. But that is not all for the performance of our giant Byung pool. Scientists, of course, were doing their various performance studies on the extracts of giant Byung pool, identifying the concentrations of these specific triterpenes and their glycosides. But there was one molecule they could not identify. So, in these in vitro studies, there was a unique molecule that was found and simply known as molecule X. It had a different molecular weight than rather any of these other triterpenes that are previously known, and they found that it was directly correlated to the anti-wrinkle efficacy of giant Byung pool. In this, we had found that we discovered a new trisaccharide that is only found in giant Byung pool, and we aptly named it Rimonoside. So rimonoside actually significantly influences the reduction in the appearance of fine lines and wrinkle by suppressing MMP1 activity. Now, MMP1 or matrix metalloproteinase 1 is an enzyme that naturally occurs in our bodies and it helps break down collagen and elastin to allow for restructuring. But due to various external aggressors, largely UV overexposure, but pollution, diet, and if you smoke or drink, you can permanently upregulate the activity of MMP1, breaking down collagen and elastin that your skin actually needed for structural integrity. So this remonoside can help reduce that activity and keep your your collagen stores intact. So this is only in giant Byung pool. It's in no other varietal or strain of Byung pool of Centella asiatica. And of course, we have noted this as a novel discovery of giant Byung pool. Now, the way in which we employ giant Byung pool into formulation isn't simply by just adding that extract. We utilize what's known as the giant Byung pool 3 solution, and this is key to the booster, to the serum, and the dermatology cream. Now, almost all of our products have giant Byung pool, but standard, traditionally, it is the lava Byung pool water extract. Here we have this perfect trinity of the various different components that you can pull from the giant Byung pool. Now, notably, it's going to be that leaf extract. Oftentimes, you'll see me use two phrases interchangeably. It'll be the giant Byung pool leaf extract or lava Byung pool water. Now, lava Byung pool water is trademarked. It's the trade name that has been registered for the extract of the giant Byung pool that's been extracted with the Jeju lava energy water. But giant Byung pool leaf extract is what we've been using for the past 3 years. So the transition to lava Byung pool water is a bit disconnected. And so I use both often to really correlate them together. They are synonymous. But in the presence of the Byung pool leaf extract in our Byung pool 3 solution, we have found that there's an increase in antioxidant efficacy by 34.5%. And there's twice the reduction in that MMP1 activity with the inclusion of giant Byung pool leaf extract in formulation. But outside of that, we also have giant Byung pool exosomes. These are natural plant materials for enhanced absorption and efficacy. You might be kind of used to the some ending with our nanoliposomes, and exosomes are very similar in the sense that they have a phospholipid bilayer, which we will go into much more detail on when we talk about radiantsum versus the dermatology line. But this phospholipid bilayer is formed by phospholipids that have a polar head and non-polar tails. And so one polar head orients itself outside to the environment, and another phospholipid orients itself opposite to it, essentially, creating an internal water-loving environment as well in a spherical molecule. Now, exosomes, similarly to liposomes, transport, and they naturally exist in plant and mammalian cells to act as vesicles or vehicles to transport different cellular communications and cellular components from cell to cell. Now, in application in skincare, it's really going to be active on the surface of the skin, there is still a lot to be illuminated about exosomes, and it's currently understood that for them to penetrate, they need some kind of penetrative treatment, such as microneedling. But they are still robust in their efficacies on the surface of the skin. They can protect the natural plant components they contain for delivery to the skin and uptake by the surface skin cells. So we have the Byungpul leaf extract, we have the exosomes. The third part of the Byungpul 3 solution are giant Byungpul amino acids. Now, amino acids naturally exist as building blocks for proteins, but they can also directly help in signaling. They can also directly provide antioxidant and hydration care. So they are perfect to have in formulation to cover all those different gaps in the aesthetic benefits you may want, be it antioxidant protection, hydration, or something else. Now, as I had mentioned previously in this call, what's important here is the actual understanding and research behind the Byung-Pool. So previously mentioned was Chairman On's Manhattan Project. And so this is named after where it begun, which was in Manhattan in New York. But it's roughly a 120-page document that compiles all the different studies on giant Byung-Pool, both the studies of understanding the exact growth period, the exact growth conditions, but also on the extract itself, both in vitro or, essentially in a lab setting in, skin sample kind of platelets or plates, and then in vivo, which is in human application. And so that contains all the different science, and we are working towards a way in which we can display that science to you. But I have some pieces for you here now to understand the beginnings of the giant Byung-Pool research. So up here we have a paper that was written by Ask-based scientists, and it was the comparison of growth characteristics and physiological activity of two Scintilla asiatica cultivars. So this compares our giant Byung-Pool and a standard Byung-Pool strain. This is readily available to you. If you'd like to look up this specific title or name of this paper, you can find what exactly it details. But on the bottom here, I have all the different studies we initially did with various universities in Seoul. We found not only that it had that anti-wrinkle effect, but the brightening efficacy with Seoul National University. With Jeonbuk, we found that it had a robust efficacy in anti-inflammatory care. And with Suwon, we began to identify fermented extracts of giant Byungpul and how that could benefit the skin and the body once consumed orally. And so this is all just the beginning, as I had mentioned. There is still so much to be explored, but also still so much to share with you. Now, some of the studies that are captured within the Manhattan Project include the specific numbers on the antioxidant efficacy. We found that the giant Byung-Pool had free radical scavenging that was 143% more powerful than the standard Byung-Pool alone. That free radical scavenging is essentially the ability to neutralize free radicals or oxidative species, which are those damaging molecules that occur in the skin after UV overexposure or pollution. So 143% more free radical neutralizing than standard Byung-Pool strains. And in that same comparison, we found that it was helpful to increase collagen production by 60% in comparison to that standard Byung-Pool strain. Lastly, we found in terms of its barrier strengthening that giant Byung-Pool can encourage the production of involucrin, which is a barrier binding protein that greatly influences how your barrier functions. So much with giant Byung-Pool. If you wish to understand more about Centella in general, you can easily research it by going to scholar.google.com and putting in Centella asiatica. But of course, we also are prepared to supply more to you all as we continue to work on these internal documents. All right. So let's now transition to that other heritage ingredient, which itself has a romanticized story and robust innovation in science. Now, when we look to the utilization of water in formulations, it's almost a given. Water is a universal solvent. When I was that cosmetic chemist a few years back, we would start almost always with water in a big vat, and we add the products or the ingredients into it and create our serums and our emulsions, etc. Formulas can be upwards of 80% water, even sometimes 90% if you have a thin serum-like formulation, especially with products like body washes or shampoos that you can get at the drugstore. These are large fills, but they're offered relatively at a cost-effective level. So how do you create such a big volume while still being affordable. That's with utilizing water and a thickener to give you that amount of product. This is not bad by any means, but that gives a large gap in formulation that is not offering any benefit to the human body. So we explored how even at the basics and the foundation line of formulation, we could contribute some of that Riemann difference. And that was largely found with the utilization of Jeju lava energy water. Now, on Jeju Island, roughly 400,000 years ago, a volcano had begun to form known as Halasan. Beneath this volcano was, of course, volcanic bedrock. The surrounding seawater began to filter through this bedrock, and it was being freed of any heavy metals or impurities, and instead picking up essential minerals from that bedrock, such that this aqueous resource has tested benefits in skin hydration. That can't, excuse me, that cannot be said for deionized or distilled water, which is what we traditionally utilize in the industry. Now, there are only a few locations globally where this volcanic or magma waters, magma seawater, lava seawater, all these different names occurs. And so it's notably Hawaii, there's one in Japan, Spain, of course, Jeju Island. But Jeju is the purest and most accessible form of this lava seawater. Not only is it towards the surface for us to easily source it, but it is free of having high sand amounts or any impurities within this water as well. Now, as I had mentioned, what's crucial about the performance of the Jeju Lava Energy Water is its mineral composition. So on the right here, you can see all the different minerals present within the Jeju Lava Energy Water. What's key here is that the most abundant is, of course, sodium. This is removed in desalination processes prior to including this into formulation. So there is not a ton of salt in the Riemann formulations. But we do have silicon, we have selenium, zinc, and excuse me, and iron. And all of these, of course, are internally beneficial as supplements, but also do have benefit for the skin as well. What's also key about the selection of the Jeju Lava Energy Water beyond its mineral containment or mineral consistency is the fact that it is a stable resource. It has very few fluctuations year round. As you can see here, the temperature, the salinity or salt content, and the pH of the water stays considerably stable year round. And that's crucial because we're using it year round, we're sourcing it year round, and so it needs to be dependable. As you can see in this graph here, the lava seawater is that pink line, bottom water is going to be this dotted line, and surface is going to be that solid black line. And the pink stays consistent and rather linear throughout the years from January all the way to December. Now, in our utilization of the Jeju Lava Energy Water, it's crucial to note that there is no risk for resource depletion because we are directly working with this government agency, that Lava Seawater Research Center. They are allowing us this access to the water, and they have strict standards in store to make sure that we are using it responsibly and never to the point of depletion. So we frankly have thousands of years of Jeju Lava Energy Water available to us, and we are maintaining our commitment to respecting the environment every time we use it. We also utilize it whenever we can as a recycled good. So we utilize the filtered byproducts for crop cultivation. So anything that did not make it into the extract or into the final formulation can be reutilized to grow the giant byungpool. Similarly to, or yes, to the giant byungpool. Similarly to the giant byungpool, we of course also have research with the Jeju Lava Energy Water. And because this energy water is understood or accessible to more parties, there is so much research that you can easily look up when looking up the magma seawater of Jeju or the lava seawater of Jeju. Now, to clarify in that, there are currently 13 different companies that have relationships or access to the Jeju Lava Energy Water and to the Lava Seawater Research Center. We are the only skincare company. All the other companies are selling it as bottled drinking water. We also have the largest stakes and involvement with this Lava Seawater Agency. And so that gives us kind of importance and priority in our utilization of this specific aqueous resource. Now, you might see a product that is a one-off that claims itself to have Jeju Lava Energy Water or magma seawater, but that was what it is. It's a one-off. So we are consistently utilizing this water whenever possible. So some of the research indicates, of course, mainly the hydration effect, which is crucial. And what's key about its ability to provide hydration to the skin is that similarly to the giant byung pool, it's encouraging your skin's innate hydration. Specifically, it increases the presence of what are known as aquaporins, and these are essentially channels within the skin that allow for the transport of water. So this in turn allows for that more even hydration of multiple layers of the skin. But we've also found that it has a significant ability to reduce melanogenesis. And we'll get more into this next week, session 3. But melanogenesis is the process by which melanin is synthesized in our skin and produced to either create your natural skin tone or to create dark spots or hyperpigmentation. So the Jeju magma seawater can actually inhibit a specific portion of this melanogenesis pathway to reduce hyperpigmentation. Now, there are also studies ongoing about the consumption of the Jeju lava energy water. Of course, we are not yet including this in any of our life-fitting products, but there are some studies on how it can affect the body internally as well. Now, specific to Riman's utilization, I have some results here for the Jeju lava energy water. First is the study of the moisturization effects on the outer skin and on the inner skin as well. So what you can see here is that we held it against a placebo that did not have the Jeju lava energy water, and that placebo is going to be that orange lime. And our product with the Jeju lava energy water is that blue lime. And so we start with before, immediately after use, and 2 weeks after use to see the long-term effects of moisturization with the Jeju lava energy water. And as you can see here, we both started at the same baseline with that control product, but it was significantly higher than that control product immediately after use and 2 weeks after use as well. But more robust is that moisturization of the inner skin, which is roughly 2.5 millimeters in depth from the surface of the skin. So it was able to not only moisturize immediately after use, but continue that moisturization or maintained it 2 weeks after use. Now, in all these different values, you might be saying, well, this isn't a whole lot. If you look at it, it's 47 versus 52, it's 52 versus 53. But because we are looking at water, which has otherwise no different active ingredients or, key polyphenols or anything of that like, it's pretty fascinating to have it have a moisturizing effect for being just mineral-rich water. And so in the improvement rate percentages you see here for both the moisturizing of the outer skin and of the inner skin, we have roughly, a 97% improvement rate in moisturization before and immediately after use. And for the inner skin, roughly 4.6% immediate increase in skin moisturization. All right, and so where do we use the Jeju lava energy water? As I mentioned, it's wherever possible. So the most important thing is that it is considered a growth booster for the giant byung pool. It is how we obtain that giant byung pool because otherwise we'd be growing standard byung pool. It also acts as a natural fertilizer because of that mineral-rich nature. It greatly cultivates the soil and the sand that the giant byung pool are growing in to make it very rich and nutrient dense for the giant byung pool. It is also used as a formulation solvent. So whenever possible, we try to use it as the aqueous phase or water phase in formulation. Of course, I mentioned wherever possible because you might have instances in which a mineral rich nature or presence within a formula could either break the viscosity or cause instability. So we always look at the multiple different prongs of formulation to understand if we can employ the Jeju lava energy water. And most importantly, or I've been saying all these are important, but significantly important is the fact we are using it to extract the giant byung pool, to create the giant byung pool leaf extract, that lava byung pool water. Essentially, we take all those leaves at their peak growth period directly to our extraction process and we add it with a big vat of the Jeju lava energy water, heat it up specifically, and pull out that extract. And so to better illuminate that process, I actually wanted to detail here the timeline and procedure of the creation of our byung pool leaf water, of the lava byung pool water. So we first start with those leaves going through 2 rounds of cleaning, removing absolutely everything off the surface of these leaves, any physical dirt or contamination. We then go through timed sterilization. That's going to remove the invisible impurities, any bacteria or microspecies. And then we go through that extraction. So taken to that big vat, added with the Jeju lava energy water. It is heat controlled and frequently circulated to get all of those different phytonutrients out into the solution. We then filter it and transfer, remove essentially all of that leaf pulp, having just an aqueous extract. There is no plant materials or anything of this such, any solids in the extract. Goes again through another antibacterial processing. Then we finally package it for distribution to the manufacturing or formulation inclusion for our various products. And before that happens, we of course do another inspection and quality control. So when we do all of this, we are really treating these leaves as raw materials in your personal care. And so they need that level of quality analyses and stringent cleanliness to maintain its safety for human benefit. And in all of this processing, roughly 15 tons of byungpool produces enough extract for 1 million products. So that is it for today. I know that was a lot, but as per usual, we have here a QR code for you with the outline on our giant gunk pool and the Jeju lava energy water. So I'll leave a little time here for you to scan the QR code. We are also currently dropping it in the chat. For those of you that perhaps pre-downloaded this outline prior to this call, this outline has now been updated. So I do recommend that you pull this latest document, but a couple more seconds here and then we will move on to finishing up this call. All right, so as I mentioned, next week we are getting into the products themselves, but not just the products. We are first illuminating the skin's physiology and how it is influenced by the ICD products. So we'll go through the different layers of the skin and we'll go through the different ingredients within the various products and how they can address various aesthetic concerns. And just a reminder, session 7 happening on May 13th is going to be that Q&A session. So, oops, where is it going? There we go. So continue to send in your questions to the ritual@riman.com inbox. Reminder that this inbox always exists for any of your inquiries, big or small. So continue to utilize this resource on your own, but also, of course, please send in questions so we can have a robust Q&A session on the 13th. If you do send in a question specifically for this session, please just label it Product University or Q&A question, just so I don't answer it immediately because I love answering questions. But without further ado, that is the end of our discussion today. And once again, I want to thank you all for taking the time to join me this evening, whether you are getting ready for bed, getting ready for dinner, or getting ready for your day. I've seen some people joining from Malaysia and of course stateside. Thank you for taking the time to better your Riman understanding and hopefully your self-care. But I will see you next week. Talk to you then.